I can't even believe that today is our fourth podcast. Very exciting.
Yes.
And the closer we get into this, the more I have realized that there are a lot of just misperceptions out there that people have about real estate, like in general.
Yes.
I think we should clear up some of those.
Agreed.
Cool. Hi, I'm Carla.
And I'm Crystal.
And we're real estate agents in Mooresville, North Carolina.
Welcome to our show.
So if you are interested in real estate, behind the scenes of real estate, maybe if you're looking to buy or sell a home or have ever owned a home, I think that you'll find something interesting in this show for you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Now we can laugh.
Okay, so we have made a list of some of the most common or just like really out there, completely not true misperceptions.
Yes.
The first misperception that I think we should talk about has been created, no doubt, by HGTV.
Absolutely. Yes. And Selling Sunsets and
Fixer Upper,
yes,
Flipper, whatever, like all of them. So of all these shows, what do you think is like a common just misnomer?
Well, the first one I would probably have to say is that people look at three houses and then they pick one.
I would love if we only looked at three houses. What would you say is the average number of houses that you look at before you choose one?
Average, probably 6.
I want to say, that sounds pretty good. Right now, I think I'm already on number 10 and we are not even close. And so I just think that people, they think, and they get discouraged. Like,
yes,
oh, we've seen 3 houses and we don't like anything. But that is just not real life.
Right. It's usually 3 to 6 days of looking at houses. Over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think you start to find something in each house that you don't like, and that kind of leads you down the path of the house that you do like. Yeah. The other thing that I think is a big misperception is that, like we were talking about, because you watch these shows, you see them make an offer on the house.
Yeah.
Cut scene.
Then they're sitting by the fire drinking wine, and that in between part, that's a big component. That
why isn't there a show about all of that?
You want to do one?
Do you think it's because people would stop buying houses?
Well, I don't know if it would be that extreme.
I really just thought of that. Like, why isn't there a show that shows all the parts between offer to close?
Yeah, I think it would be great.
Because that's the messy parts.
It's the messy part, and it's the part people need to know about more so than what it's like to walk through a house.
And I feel like it's also the part that shows you the value of your real estate agent.
Yes.
And your lender.
Yes.
And your attorney and your inspector.
Yes.
Like, it highlights how important these people are.
Each component that gets you from the time that you walk through that house and decide you want to make an offer to the fire pit.
So HGTV, if you're listening,
yes,
we will be happy to make a show about the time between offer and closing. FYI, in our scenarios, those are always
it will be a drama.
It will be a
drama show. Drama.
It will be very dramatic. I don't know how much wine cheersing there will be.
Yeah.
I will be drinking wine.
Parental guidance suggested. Maybe a few coarse words here and there.
Just on a fun side, I just always think about Selling Sunset, because I am wrapped up in the drama of Selling Sunset. But that is what it is. It is a drama show. It is not a real estate show. And I get a kick out of the fact of thinking, like, what if I showed up to work dressed like they do in Selling Sunset, like in 5-inch stilettos with like a 4-inch mini skirt. My top would be like safety pinned on, very, I'd have like some kind of duct tape fashion going on. And then crawl in the crawl space.
That's right. We are in the crawl space and we're in the attic. And,
Yeah, looking for mold.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a view for the people behind me, no doubt, but yeah.
It's definitely not reality. And one thing when we are watching them, it's we always comment about how people say, I could just picture myself sitting on that screen porch drinking tea in the morning. No one ever says that. Never.
No, I've never had a client say that ever. Usually,
but every one of the episodes, they say, "Oh, I could just
picture myself right here." They must have better lives.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, that brings me to our misperception number 2, because I feel like it really tied into where we said, why don't they show that in between? Which is that good houses sell themselves. No agent necessary.
Definitely a misperception.
Yes, I mean, I think that again, people forget that getting an offer on the house is like the smallest portion. I mean, it's important. You have to get the offer.
That's right, to get started.
Yeah,
but that is just the starting point.
Yeah, I mean, keeping the offer is what makes your real estate agent or all the other people worthy of being in the transaction.
Yeah.
I think I can think of several times where there was the time where the swimming pool was built in the wrong place on our listing, and it was in the setbacks, and I had to go to the office planning department, I think every single day practically. Yes. Was on the phone with them until they finally found a rule that could like circumvent the swimming pool variance so that these people could pay $2.5 million for a house.
Yes.
I mean, I'm imagining like and they got that offer really quickly, but the process that followed that was awful. One of the agents basically just quit doing anything.
That's right.
And so I'm thinking, well, if I'd quit doing anything, that house was not going to sell.
Yes, and that happens often whenever it gets complicated. The agents either they get afraid of liability maybe, or would just rather pick another house, find an easy way.
Make it go away.
That's right. That's right. But if you work through the issue with the attorneys in the county and get a variance or whatever the issue is, every situation you can work through it, but it is often complicated.
And I think that is really the difference between being just a regular agent and a good agent.
That's true.
Like the good agent has experience in probably many issues so that they know how to solve, like just, okay, whatever that issue is today. Oh, check. Yes, I've had this disaster. Let me help you.
Right. We just know where to go and how to use all of our resources.
Yeah. I think probably we were talking about the most challenging one, and probably we were talking about it because there's that TikTok thing that's going viral where the real estate agent basically shows this woman that the man she's married to is a lying pathological nightmare.
Yes, it's the hot. If y'all are on TikTok, you've heard about the Teresa saga, the 50 episodes of the man she married. There was about 4 real estate agents in that story, and there's one in particular that saw the red flags and said enough to her that she knew that the agent was trying to tell her something.
Yeah.
And I mean, we need to do a whole episode on just the red flags, the kind of things that we see. That'll be next one. Yeah,
I definitely think we could have a whole episode of red flags, because the big red flag for them was the proof of funds.
That's right.
That he didn't have proof of funds. And that again is another scenario where the agent was so necessary. When I had those people, I had the listing and those buyers, $3.5 million house.
Yes.
The man had proof of funds, but it was fraudulent. But something, just the way they were going about, just, it didn't sit right. It didn't sound right.
And you met those people, right?
I did meet those people,
See,
but something was off.
Right. So that's, we hear about all these fraudulent things, but usually it's online, it's an email, it's a call. But when you met them face to face, it was a different level of, at first it was like, oh, these people are so
Good.
nice.
They're amazing. They want to offer full price on day
Yes.
one, and they don't even want to negotiate. And they had their own agent. And the agent said she knew them personally.
All the things that we hope.
But we did have to go through a lot to solve that situation. In fact, that involved me tracking down their proof of funds to another realtor in Texas.
That's right.
Who I then talked to, and then putting it on a Facebook page to find out that this person had been going around the entire town area making offers on $1 million houses, and several went under contract.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
And even at the time, I remember whenever you figured out and you knew something wasn't right, you said, what is the end game? Because we couldn't figure out how they weren't making money from it. Were they going to put down some money? And I think they wanted a possession prior to closing or something like that. So we were thinking, are they going to move in and are they going to be squatters?
In that one, the end game was that his new wife didn't know, again, like this person on the TikTok, had no idea that he was just a complete scam artist. He scammed her too.
Yeah.
So much like the same thing that's happening now.
Yes.
So if you're a realtor out there, you just keep your little lie detectors up. You're like saving
Yeah.
people all over the place.
Well, and I think what I've learned from this agent in Georgia that warned this woman, you want to be careful about what you say to somebody about their boyfriend or their spouse. But she said just enough, woman to woman, that changed the trajectory of her whole life. Because then she started saying, okay, I'm gonna have to, the woman's like, I'm gonna look into this. And
because they've never bought she'd never bought a house before.
No.
So some of the things could just look, I don't know, you're like, oh, maybe this is just how it goes.
She believed him. So when the agents would say, oh, we need proof of funds, he would say to her, well, this is none of their business. I'm not showing them my accounts until I get something under contract. And she said, well, that kind of
Sounds reasonable.
Sounds reasonable to me. But
Yeah, you will need to show your proof of funds before you write an offer. And if somebody isn't asking you for that, that's not a good sign. And if you have your house for sale and that person isn't asking for that, then that's not a good sign for your listing as well.
That's right. And too, we may even dive deeper into that because there are fraudulent proof of funds.
Yes.
So if that happens to you and you're a buyer, don't be offended. Just know there's a whole lot of scams that are going on out there, and we need to protect you as a buyer, and we need to protect the sellers.
Yeah. It's always a fun time, which I guess is why one of the other misperceptions out there is because we're basically superheroes, as we just heard.
That's right.
That realtors are just rolling in money. That it is the easiest job.
Easy.
We are basically printing cash.
We ride around and we point at things and we just make a killing.
They just throw money at
That's
us.
right.
It just comes in the windows.
Yeah.
But I think people don't understand how most realtors get paid. They don't understand what's involved with that. They think that we get a salary, and then on top of that, we're getting
a commission. Right.
Yeah. And it's just not true. I mean, I think there are some realtors for certain companies where they don't do outside sales. They just do sales for their company that might earn a salary.
That's very rare.
Yeah, but it is very rare. But the way it actually works is we only get paid if we sell a house.
Right.
And there are a number of times that we work with people for 2 years sometimes before they buy a house.
Or they may never buy a house, or they may change their mind and move to a different area. We have that actually a lot here because people might be wanting to retire in the Lake Norman area, then change their mind and decide to retire in Florida or Colorado or Asheville.
Yeah. And then just knowing that all of the things that we're doing, whether it's photography, marketing, websites, printed material, networking, all the things that we do, those come right from our
We pay for it,
funds.
yes. Even signs and lock boxes and everything.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's no sick days. There's no holidays. There's no health insurance.
No.
So I just think it's, if they understood a little bit more about how it really works, then there would not be this, maybe a little bit of a bad rap, but also the expectations just that they think.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's because of these shows too, because they always like to depict real estate agents in the most expensive car and the most expensive clothes and driving through these, these mansions. And in reality, that's just not, most real estate agents are just
Regular.
people living in regular neighborhoods or all different ranges of neighborhoods that has really nothing to do that being a realtor.
Yes. That's not why they're not
in those the nicer neighborhood. If they're in the nicer neighborhood, it's not because they're a realtor.
Yeah. So I'm not printing money in the back. That means I cannot give you all of my commission. I would not get paid. Okay. Another myth that we have is that this one.
I can't see. Oh, that's a good one. That you are going to save money. This is for buyers. That buyers are going to save money by going directly to the listing agent.
I mean,
if you Google it, it says, if you go directly to the listing agent, you could save money.
And I think that, again, people don't understand how that works. So if you are the listing agent and you are selling the house and someone comes to buy that house, first of all, I've already negotiated in my contract what I'm getting paid regardless of if somebody comes in or doesn't come in on the other side. So that's already determined up front.
Right, if there's another agent or not. You've
Right.
already made that determination in your written agreement with that seller.
Yeah. And the second thing is, if I become what's called a dual agent here in North Carolina, meaning that I represent both parties now, you think, there's a huge savings. But that is also a huge liability on my part that I'm taking on, and I'm doing both sides of the work.
And you're getting paid as per your agreement anyway.
Yes.
You're not going to give them a discount. And
it's just it is a misnomer. But what they did lose out on, so they're saying like, we could save all this money. What they lost was so much.
An agent representing them.
They're giving them their
interest.
Fiduciary duty for everything. Because even if, I just say, nope, I am still only going to represent the seller, and you're just going to be an unrepresented buyer, who's telling you about all the stuff that we talked about in the beginning?
Yes.
The offer all the way to close, who's telling you what to do? Like, unless you just are the most seasoned person out there. Because this reminds me, I recently purchased a property in Florida.
Yes.
And the very first thing I did was hire a buyer's agent.
Yes.
So I know the general rules of purchasing.
You probably could have done it.
Except that I know everywhere you go, the rules are
Florida.
different.
It was Florida, and
I don't know enough.
Yeah.
And so people come here all the time, even if they've purchased a house before. They're like, I've bought and sold a house before. We don't need an agent. We've done this. And I'm like, but have you done it here? Do you know the neighborhood? Do you know the area? Do you know the state rules?
Do you know about due diligence money? That's a big thing in it from other states.
It is a little bit humorous, the myths that are out there, except for the fact that they really do a disservice to the buyers and sellers that are out there.
That's right.
Yeah. Can you think of any other big myths that might be out there? Here is another misperception that I think people often get wrong, and that is that you need 20% down to buy a house.
Yep.
It's widely thought of this, and the reason people want to do this is because
If they have 20% down, they don't have to pay private mortgage insurance, which is another fee that buyers have to pay.
But in this one instance for my new buyer, it was very interesting to me because he was choosing the price point of his house based on the 20% that he wanted to put down, meaning that he could qualify for much more house, but then he'd have to have a bigger fund for the 20% down.
Right.
And it was really limiting his home options. And what we found was just by him knocking down to like 15%, so that he could raise his number a little bit, it was only going to cost him $26 a month.
To put down 15% instead of 20%, including the PMI.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, the PMI was going to be $26.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was shocked at that. I was like, wait, his PMI is going to be $26? That's not even a month of Starbucks.
That's right.
And so I would like people to know that you can buy a house with 5% down.
Yes, you can do it. You can do FHA for 3.5% down. You can do, if you're a veteran, you can do 0% down. You can do a 3% conventional. The USDA is 100% financing, but you just have to be in a certain area.
Yeah. And some of those have restrictions about how much money that you can make. The VA loan is still probably the best one out there.
Yes. And it is, you may hear that they're complicated. We've done tons of VA loans. They are not terribly complicated, difficult to work with. They're just like any other loan. There's just a couple little things, but they get a bad rap, I think, sometimes.
They do. They really do.
Just because someone uses their VA benefit to not have a down payment doesn't mean they don't have money. It means they're a veteran and they earned the right to use this program.
Yes. I think what we have learned today is that there are a lot of misperceptions out there that just ask a real estate agent. You don't have to, you can just call us up sometime and say, I heard this. You don't have to use me. I will be happy to clarify.
Just answer questions.
Yeah, you can write it in on like the comments and we will be happy to answer if that is the truth or not the truth. Let's see, we have also learned that there should be an HGTV show that shows the drama that happens between offer and closing.
Yes.
And we have learned that there are a bunch of red flags.
Red flags. We have to do a whole episode about the things that we see.
Yes, and we will continue to be superheroes out there in the world, guarding against the red flags. But we do thank you for joining us again for episode 4. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time.